Specifically, like, have you ever thought about a cross-functional team that's dealing with how brands evolve on Twitter and
well, yeah,
different impacts?
Yes, because one of the things we've been talking about is, okay, there's commercial usage happening on Twitter. You've got Starbucks, you've got Comcast, you've got City Bakery here in New York twittering when the cookies are warm out of the oven, so you can run over and get a warm cookie. And I especially love those little ideas that, you know, the idea that you can have a chalkboard and a mobile phone and you're in business with Twitter, because you can just be like, hey, follow us, pie of the day every day. We actually talked to these people at Mission Pie in San Francisco, and they were having this problem where they make these wonderful pies out of fresh ingredients, and everyone raves about them. People love them, and you go in and you buy this great apple pie, and then you go back next week and you're like, apple pie, baby, and they're like, no apple pie, cherry pie, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, fresh cherries, that's what's fresh, and they're like, that apple pie was really good, never mind. And but if they just would get the cherry pie, they'd love it. Anyways, what they did was they were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put out a chalkboard that says, follow us on Twitter, fresh pie of the day goes out, you know, and so that completely changed the way, the perception. And instead, they've got all these people that are following Mission Pie, and they're like, wait, what's this? Hold on, what? Ooh, cherry pie today. I better pick up a cherry pie on the way home. And we spoke to the husband of the operations manager there, and she said that sales increased 15 to 20% since they started twittering. And we heard a similar thing at a tea shop in Kansas. We heard, you know, that City Bakery. I don't know what their stats are, but I love the idea that, oh, cookies are warm, quick. And the idea that everyone runs over and buys all the cookies, and they're like, we can go home. We just sold all our cookies, you know? I mean, because they only need a couple hundred people to follow them, and that's it for a little company like that. And then when you take that thought and you realize, okay, this is America now, so extend that to street vendors in India who just need to sell the 4 bowls of grain they got out. And if they can have 5 people following them, like, let me know when you get a watermelon, and I'll definitely buy it. You know what I mean?
So a lot of questions about monetization, sustainability. Yeah. So how do you create a model that works for a street vendor in India and for Comcast?
Well, I think the first way we're looking that we've talked about is, since we do have these bigger companies using Twitter as kind of a hybrid approach to both marketing and customer service, which is great. And if you ever have the chance to invite Tony from Zappos in to speak, you should get him on one of your things. He's amazing, because you know, his whole philosophy is every time you interact with the customer, it's marketing opportunity. Even if they're calling you up raving pissed about something, you're like, great, we're talking to our customers. Like, how much money do other people spend sending out postcards and all that stuff? Hello, I have you on the phone. Like, and so they just love it, and they want everyone to call them all the time, and they love Twitter because it keeps them connected to people. And he has like stories that he's like melt your face, unbelievable stories, like people calling him, like, oh yeah, your customer service is so great. Well, I'm drunk and I'm in Las Vegas right now, and I want a pizza. And they take the call. They're like, okay, sir, well, we found a pizza place that's open. Would you like us to order it? And they're like, what? And you know, so they have all these crazy things like that. Like, they do this wonderful training program where after like a month, everyone has to go work in the factory or like wherever the distribution center is, whether you're the CEO or whoever, you have to spend a month training. And most of the people are training, you know, to pack boxes and stuff. And they have these wonderful stories, like someone found like a huge wad of cash, like, you know, $1,000 in a wallet that had been returned. And they didn't even talk to their manager. They called the customer. They're like, oh, I found $1,000 in cash in this wallet you returned. Would you like it back? Just anyways, they do this great stuff. So you know, we have this going on Twitter. We have companies getting value out of Twitter. We have Dell, you know, announcing we made $1 million off our Twitter feed. We have Whole Foods clearly using it to their advantage. Starbucks, other places, they're getting value out of it. So where we see value being had, we think that we might be able to enhance that, and we might be able to add features or you know, different ways of looking at your Twitter account for some kind of, in exchange for some kind of fee. And we do have a team. Well, it's one guy, but it's a team. Researching how best to go about that early on.
SAP created an interface as well in terms of
right. And I think Salesforce and some other folks are doing some stuff. So essentially, that's going on. How can we make it better? And what's a way that we can take money for that? That makes sense. That that also isn't something that's like an imposition. Everything remains free, but if you want to get even more value out of it, then you opt into these things.
We have a lot of questions from our global offices.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the use of Twitter outside the United States, the penetration?
Well, I know that London is our top city from a web perspective, which is kind of cool. But I think it fluctuates, and I don't spend a lot of time digging around through the stats. But I think about 50% of Twitter users, at least on the web, are in the United States, and the rest are scattered around the world. But it varies wildly depending on if you measure by SMS, web, or the apps. And we're still trying to figure out the best way to measure our success. What's the holy grail number for measurement? Like, it's certainly not like number of registered users or something like that. It's probably going to be something like individual tweet views, which right now is like an impossible thing to measure because they show up on people's SMS, they show up on CNN, they show up all over the place. But if there could be a way that we would be able to say, like, okay, you sent out a tweet and it was viewed X many times, I think that would be really valuable, not just for regular folks, but also for companies. Like, wow, that's crazy. Like, there was a link in that thing. How many times was it clicked? So, and those kind of things would probably go into a commercial usage type of package where you'd be able to really get a lot of feedback and learn how you're doing and if it's effective. Now some of that I think would also be interesting to regular users too. So I have a feeling that when we start shaking the tree of features for commercial users, cool things will fall out that'll just end up in Twitter anyways.
Some good questions here around more theoretical stuff. Do you think microblogging hurts regular blogging?
I don't blog anymore. Well, actually, that's so not true. That is so not true. I blog like crazy because I blog on the Twitter company blog. I always think like I don't blog anymore, and I feel guilty because I don't update my personal blog, but that's absolutely not true because I blog almost every day on the company blog, which a lot more people read than my personal blog. So is microblogging killing blogging? Well, I mean, if it's microblogging, then it's part of blogging, so it's making blogging better. I don't think Twitter is microblogging. I think microblogging is a use case for Twitter. I think of Twitter, Twitter is a communications network. It can be used for all different kinds of crazy things. And one of them certainly can be microblogging. But I don't know. There's two things. The two big things that I hear are, one, Twitter ruined me from blogging because now I can just fire off whatever I'm thinking multiple times per day. Or two, Twitter is making my blog so much more awesome because I'm using it to link to my posts, and all my Twitter followers are reading my posts, and it's awesome. And it makes me all fired up about writing a post because when I'm done, I'll go Twitter about it, and everyone will read it right away. And so no, I think, in general, I feel like Twitter's mission is to complement and enhance a lot of these other services, blogging, social networking, whatever we can, wherever we can help.
There was comments when Obama gave his first State of the Union address that a lot of the freshman congressmen were tweeting during the president's address, and some people thought, of all the places to pay attention, it's when the President of the United States is, talking.
Right.
And other people thought, no, it's instant feedback, it's democracy in action.
Right.
Curious what...
Well, I think the paying attention thing is interesting because it's like saying, like, you have a professor at the front of a room. It's like, why are you all writing? You should be paying attention. Like, we're taking notes. It's not like they were twittering about, some of them might have been twittering about, like, this seat is uncomfortable or whatever, but I think most of them were reacting to what he was saying, and adding their commentary. And what was fascinating about that was, traditionally you would have this closed-door session, and then the doors would open, and there would be the reporters, like, okay, it's time to tell us what happened inside. And it's like, with that one, it was like, we already all know. It's old news. What else do you want to talk about? Like, there's already an article online written about what was said inside the thing before the doors even opened. So,
How about
What was the two-part of that question? The first part was, are they paying attention? The second part is...
or is it democracy in action? That's like...
Oh, yeah, I definitely think it's I mean, I think, Twitter, you could say that Twitter has upped the pace of democracy to real time a little bit, and that you now need the tools to operate in that space. Mm-hmm. You don't have the luxury of, like, sitting on something for a couple of weeks at a side, because people are making these things happen right now. But I think it is democracy in action because... that's the whole point. These folks are supposed to be representing us, and we're supposed to have access to them, and they're supposed to be in touch with us. And if Twitter does that, then good.
Yeah.